All right. Hello, everybody. A good evening from sunny tropical Sri Lanka, where I'm in my house. Thank you very much for allowing me to teleport myself into your houses, your homes, into your most intimate spaces. I feel very privileged to be there with you guys right now. Good evening to my fellow Sri Lankans who might be on this live stream watching. Really excited to be able to actually do this talk across the world and not have to go through jet lag. It's quite special, actually. So, my name is Dr. Asha de Vos. I am a marine biologist based in Sri Lanka, executive director and a founder of Oceanswell. And some of you out there in Boston, in that area, might have seen me speak at the New England Aquarium before. Some of you might have seen me live here in Sri Lanka. So, yeah, I'm very passionate about the oceans and marine life. And today I want to share with you a few secrets of our ocean giants. So let me just take you on a little, very short journey because I don't have a whole lot of time, but I'm going to pack it all in. So just stay focused, okay? So today I'm going to talk about the secret lives of Sri Lanka's giants. And they really are the giants of our oceans anywhere in the ocean. But the privilege that I have is that these animals actually live in my waters. And it's super exciting for me. So what I want you to look at in this opening slide is in the top right, that's a picture of a blue whale. And on the bottom left is a picture of a sperm whale. And I hope you can notice straight away that there are some distinct differences between their bodies. Not only is it a size difference, which is a little hard to tell from these photographs, but certainly the blue whale can grow between 25 to 30 meters, whereas the sperm whale will grow to a maximum of 18 meters. So it's a lot smaller, but you can also see the dorsal fin shape. That's the fin on the back is a little bit different in shape. Their body coloration is different. The texture of their bodies is different. So there's a lot of differences, and that I want to just delve into a little bit more as I introduce these two species to you. The privilege that I have is that they actually both live in Sri Lanka. And I want to really take you on this adventure and help you to appreciate them. Okay, so some of you who may know me already might know me as the person who's fairly obsessed with blue whales. My stories always revolve around blue whales. But my dirty little secret, actually, I have two today, I'm going to confess. My first dirty little secret is that my career actually started with sperm whales. This is my undergraduate thesis that I did at the University of St. Andrews many years ago. And it was about sperm whales and their coda calls, which is a communication call that they use. P.S. My second dirty little secret is that I am all dressed up today, except I've got pajama shorts underneath. So I thought I'd share that with you. It's pretty funny. So I did this thesis at a time before I'd ever actually seen a live whale of any kind, okay? And then a few months after I had my degree, I went off to New Zealand and I went off to see my first ever live whale. It was actually a sperm whale. And this was in Kaikoura. In the background, you'll see Mount Cook. I don't know why I don't look more excited. I think I was, but maybe I was a little cold in this photograph. So perhaps that's why I don't have a big toothy grin on. The next thing I did was actually I managed to wangle my way onto a research vessel, a whale research vessel that was circumnavigating the globe. It started off in San Diego, went right around the world for 5.5 years, and really focused on sperm whales. That was like the main species of research. This vessel, the research vessel Odyssey, is actually based out of Gloucester, Massachusetts. So some of you may already know about this vessel, but that's kind of where I started off my career. And really, my life was so deeply intertwined with sperm whales at this time that I was convinced my life was going to just be all about sperm whales. But then it was on this this research expedition that I was doing with the Odyssey that a slight shift happened because I encountered an aggregation of blue whales and a floating pile of whale poop. I know not everyone can say that eureka moment came from a pile of whale poop, but mine definitely did. And that's a story for another day. But just to plant that, my life suddenly went off in a different direction. I've spent over a decade now really establishing the first long-term research project on blue whales of the northern Indian Ocean. But you'll be happy to know that last year I came back to my first love, which was sperm whales, and launched the Sri Lankan Sperm Whale Project. And actually, it was on an expedition that I was doing with Brian Skerry, who many of you are very familiar with because of his association with the New England Aquarium. So today what I want to do is, I want to just take you on this journey and just show you what magnificent these animals they are. the craziest part is when I said I wanted to be a marine biologist at the age of 18, most people in Sri Lanka were like, what are you going to do with that degree? Because being a marine biologist was unheard of. But little did they know that these giants were lurking just off our shoreline. And I feel so lucky to be the person who gets to dedicate my life to really understanding them, but also protecting them. Here in the photograph, you'll see on the left-hand side is a blue whale, on the right-hand side is a sperm whale. Just a quick whale and dolphin 101 for those of you who aren't very familiar. Whales and dolphins can be divided into two groups based on how they feed. So one group is called the baleen whales. Baleen whales have these long comb-like structures in their mouths that they use to filter feed the water column through the water column. The comb-like structures are what we call baleen, and they're made out of keratin, which is what your nails are made of, basically. And the other group is what we call toothed whales, and as their name implies, they have teeth to chow down on things and to catch their prey, right? So the largest baleen whale in our ocean is actually the blue whale, and the largest toothed whale in our oceans is the sperm whale. And these are the two species that I'm going to focus on that actually live in our Sri Lankan waters as well. So on the left-hand side, again, I want to refocus your attention on the photographs, and you'll see that these are two tail flukes. The blue whale one is narrower and thinner, more triangular. That's the one on the left once again. And on the right, you'll see the sperm whale one, which is more V-shaped, a little more voluptuous. The one thing that they have in common is that they both have nicks and cuts and patterns on them that can help us to identify and re-identify individuals over and over again. So that's really handy for us from the scientific aspect of things. Blue whales are the biggest animal that have ever roamed our planet, and they have jolly good lungs. So when they come up to the surface and exhale, it's a gigantic, vertical, powerful tower that we see from quite a distance. They, being baleen whales, actually have two blowholes, so two nostrils, so to speak, on the top of their heads. And you can see this exhalation getting thrust out of there in this image. This can go as high as about 30 feet. So pretty high. And that's, at least a couple of stories high, just this exhalation. Whereas sperm whales, on the other hand, I don't know if you've seen a picture of a sperm whale underwater, and I'm going to show you one shortly, but they're these really quirky looking creatures with square heads and very narrow lower jaws. And they, being toothed whales, tend to have only one blowhole. If you think about dolphins, most pictures of them, if you look at them from above, they have a single blowhole on the tops of their heads. Sperm whales have these weird square heads, and so they've evolved to have a blowhole on the left-hand side, which means when they exhale, their exhalation or their blow is also slanted off onto the left. It's not as tall and powerful, but it's very characteristic, and it's really helpful for us because we can identify the species from further away at sea just because it's so different. Blue whales tend to be much more solitary in character, like most baleen whales. We see them roaming the oceans. Sometimes you'll see them with a calf. They might aggregate in areas where there's food, for example, or if there's another mate or a mating opportunity. But otherwise, they tend to be pretty solitary and out there on their own. They do, of course, use low frequency sounds to communicate with each other, because low frequency sounds can propagate through the ocean much faster and much further. They can communicate over vast distances as a result. And then that's why they can keep such large distances between each other when they're sort of hanging out in the oceans. I'm going to actually play you a blue whale call. The tricky part about this recording is that it's very, very low frequency. These animals are the loudest animals on the planet, but you have to, for us to be able to hear it, for it to be within our human hearing range, we have to speed up the sound a little bit. And it has been sped up and it is within our audible range, but it's still fairly soft. So just listen out. What you're going to hear is like a low rumble, and like a jet engine almost. And you might feel it in your chest. That's usually how I feel the sound because it is so deep. I'm just going to play a little bit of it and just maybe just everybody hold your breath and have a listen. So you can hear that very low sound, just long, drawn out, very powerful sounds. On the other hand, when we think about sperm whales, they are much more social animals. Look at this picture, right? They are super popular. They are like all toothed whales. They tend to be much more social in behavior. Think about dolphins or anything. They generally have, friends and family around. Sperm whales, particularly in the tropics, tend to live in maternal groups. So this is probably a family that comprises of grandmother and her daughters and their children. The males will usually mature and then head off into colder waters and kind of hang out in bachelor groups occasionally or just roam the oceans on their own. But females and the young tend to hang out in these very, very social groups. As a result, they do have to communicate a lot more over shorter distances to keep their groups together. Mothers need to reprimand their young. I'm sure that's happening a lot in your houses these days as everyone's like locked down in their homes. But I want you to listen to this sound and see just how different it is. So it's that clicking sound that you're hearing. That clicking sound is a very typical sound of sperm whales. There's a few different kinds of sounds that we can associate with different kinds of behaviors. But here it's just like a cacophony of sound compared to the blue whales that we were listening to before. Okay? Blue whales have got so enormous by feeding on some of the smallest things in our oceans. Okay, so if you Google what do blue whales eat, check it out on Wikipedia. They tell you krill. What I want to tell you is that here in Sri Lanka, blue whales actually feed not on krill, but the majority of their diet is made up of a little shrimp species, a euphosid shrimp. And you can see it is a tiny animal. So how do these blue whales get so gigantic? Well, the secret really is that these tiny animals are swarming animals. You'll never see them swimming around alone. You'll see them in big, swarms, basically. All these little scattered particles you see are just a whole lot of these shrimp in the water. And the advantage of that is that they can't swim away when a predator is approaching, so like the blue whale. And there's just so many of them. So with every big gulp, a blue whale can get a whole lot of calories that it needs. Blue whales can eat up to about 3.5 tons of food per day. That's about 40 million of these tiny shrimp per day, okay? Sperm whales, on the other hand, well, I don't know if you listen to the myths and legends, but they are said to dive down to the depths, like about 1,500 meters deep, where they wrestle with giant squid, right? And it's, I do wish I could be in a submersible and checking these, observing these wrestling matches that apparently go on. But either way, they tend to feed on food that moves and that kind of like zips through the water. And that's why they have teeth. They have these very narrow jaws. And another quirky thing, is that they only have teeth on their lower jaw. And that's because all they need to do is grab onto the squid and then they just suck it down. And that's basically how they consume their food. So what you eat comes out the other side. Here's a picture of blue whale poop. This is my eureka moment. It has remained one of my favorite things to see at sea. This is blue whale poop. So they eat these tiny shrimp, digest everything, and this is what it comes out like on the other side, this beautiful bright red color. And as I always tell my audiences, I challenge you to find me a more beautiful poop in the animal kingdom, because I really don't think there is any. Sperm whales, on the other hand, they feed on squid. Squid has ink, so what comes out of their bums is generally more of a browny, greeny color, right? So that's that ink kind of being processed through their bodies and just coming out. You can see in this picture again, like how weird their heads are. They're so square and odd. And you might be able to see this odd protrusion on the left-hand side of the whale at the bottom of my photograph. And that odd protrusion on the left-hand side is actually that blowhole I told you that's located on the left-hand side of the animal. So the cool part about this poo is that it's got lots of secrets. We can use it as scientists to understand a lot of different things about these animals. So I collect it. Not gonna lie, I've got a freezer full in my house. It is exclusively for animal poo, so nobody panic. But on the left-hand side is just to show you a sample of squid beaks. So I scoop a net through the water, Sperm whale poo is very silty, so I don't get much of anything else, but they do leave behind these squid beaks, because the squid beaks are again made out of keratin, the same thing your nails are made out of, so they don't get digested, they come out, and it's really cool for me because I can go look under the microscope, look at the size and the structure, and identify what species of squid they're actually feeding on. Whereas on the right hand side, you'll see a close-up shot of beautiful blue whale poop, and what we have to do, it's so mulched up that we actually have to extract the DNA of the prey that they feed on, and you do all kinds of techniques to identify what they feed on, and that's how we know they're feeding on this particular shrimp and not really that it's spending all their time trying to feed on krill. And you might be wondering what these little black lines are in the poop. Well, that's actually baleen. So that's what they use to filter feed through the water column. And just a fun fact is that baleen whales all have baleen, obviously, which is why they're called baleen whales. But the baleen in different species can be different lengths and different colors. So with blue whales, it grows to about 2 feet and is usually black in color. But if you go to the Arctic where the bowheads roam and check them out, bowheads have the longest baleen. It can grow up to 10 feet long. They're called the mustached whales because it's really bristly and it's more of a whitish color. Whereas some whales will have half a mouth of dark baleen and half a mouth of light baleen, which I think is really fascinating. And baleen only grows on the top of their mouths, just FYI. So the one thing about these whales, apart from the fact that they bring me great joy because they allow me to explore their worlds and just kind of be their ambassador, is that I love collecting their poop. It brings me a lot of joy. These pictures were taken as soon as I'd scooped up poop. On the left-hand side, squid beak and mantle from some sperm whale poop, and on the right-hand side, 2 jars of blue whale poop. I take whale poop very seriously, guys. So with that, I just want to wrap up. I want to take you to the ocean, the tropical Sri Lankan ocean, and I want to be there too. So I would like you to join me as I close this presentation and we head out to sea and just watch this immense animal, the largest animal that's ever roamed on our planet, cruise through our oceans. The clicking is the sound of my camera, by the way. All right, with that, I want to say thank you very much for your patience and for, bringing me in to your homes today. Thank you. I hope you got something exciting out of that. I hope you grow in appreciation, not just for these giants, but also the environments that they live in that support them to live these glorious lives that we still know so very little about.